Today's video is all about making changes. An overview of the framework I use with my coaching clients to create a step-by-step approach to improved health and fitness whilst dealing with common frustrations and roadblocks, and how you can tap into this framework for your own benefit. Plus, a way you can make a positive impact right now with almost no effort. A festive miracle? Not really. This is simply my expression of gratitude to you for taking the time to watch. But more on that later. For now, let's get to it. Oof, Santa did well this year. Well, season's greetings. I hope you've had a wonderful time so far and you're ready to make the coming year the best it can possibly be. This time of year can be a double-edged sword. Taking the festivities out of it, in the northern hemisphere at least, the days are short, the temperature cold, and with that, energy, enthusiasm and motivation are often low. Plus, there's often an expectation to achieve just as much in less time due to the holidays, with greater obligations outside of work. But it does bring time to celebrate with family and friends, even if that has been more limited over recent years. And with two celebrations that make use of light, decorations for Christmas, and commonly fireworks at New Year, it does help bring some colour and brightness to the darkest time of the year. I know for pet owners in particular, the fireworks are a stressor, and I'm not advocating excessive use of bangs and explosions. Just that the inclusion of colour and light into the proceedings, however it's achieved, is beneficial. And with merriment often comes indulgence. Christmas dinner with leftovers for days, puddings, selection boxes, mince pies and the like, not to mention the flow of alcohol and in some cases other indulgences. It's no wonder then that New Year brings with it the desire to make impactful life choices. It's not just the changing of the calendar, but the excess that preceded it can often be so impactful your body is crying out for a break. The problem though is the approach is often predictable. Diet trends that are clearly marketing over substance or exceedingly dangerous become suddenly appealing and worth a try. We're back to that old logical fallacy.
All cats have four legs. My dog has four legs. Therefore my dog is a cat.
So here,
something must be done. This is something, therefore we must do it.
And when you feel strongly that something must happen now,
it takes time to do things now,
and you've not had the time for research or to develop a structured plan, then it's easier just to follow what other people are doing. Or if a marketing campaign presents a solution that feels like it could work with a little suspension of disbelief, then jumping on board that wagon can feel like an easy solution. And if it doesn't work, you're no worse off, right? Wrong. Look, there are some routes that may end up ineffective, and that's as bad as it gets. But there are others that, quite simply, leave you in a worse position than before. So, to combat this, I'd like to introduce you to a simple framework at the core of my coaching technique. It's very much a step-by-step approach to improvement, and whilst it works for almost everyone, it's also completely bespoke. Because, as I continually feel the need to mention, everyone is unique with distinct circumstances and biological makeup. So, one-size-fits-all solutions are never a good bet. This structure may look familiar to anyone in the building trade. It's based loosely on the construction process. If you're not aware, my formative years of adulthood, and I use that term in its loosest sense, were as an architect. And over the 13 plus years since leaving the industry, I've found the lessons from my time in that profession invaluable in planning and adapting to building something new. It just so happens in this case, that something is you. Now, I must point out, this structure is not a quick route to six-pack abs or any other aesthetic achievement. At its core, it's about finding harmony, balance, and improvements in your life that allow you to maximize your potential, meaning increased energy, focus, and self-confidence. What you do with that is down to you. There's absolutely scope within this framework for improving your physique and looking your best, but it's not about achieving that at all costs. These improvements are built on improved health and internal functioning, which on the one hand makes that process simpler to lay on top, After all, you can burn more calories or build more muscle when you have more energy and focus to tap into. But if you simply want to feel better, remove pain and restrictions, and make more of your existence, this structure very much applies. And with that, I couldn't think of a better title to give this framework than Equilibritecture, literally translating to building balance or harmony. The framework forms a hierarchical process where one part of the sequence is built atop the previous, and there's no room for shoddy workmanship at the base levels. As in construction, whilst you can begin working on elements further along the sequence, your focus must be on the element of greatest importance to ensure the baser levels are complete, or very close to it, before diverting your attention to these higher level sequences. To make sense of this, let's first look at an existing parallel hierarchical structure that you may be familiar with, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This framework shows where elements of your existence sit hierarchically in relation to one another. Starting at the physiological level, we have air, food, water, shelter, sleep, and reproduction. Absence of any one of these elements would see us wiped out as a species. Obviously, reproduction is only necessary within the population as a whole and doesn't apply to everyone, though without it, you wouldn't exist. Shelter is a relative term. But even without a home, you would still seek shelter from the elements, as continued exposure to the extremes would not be something you could survive indefinitely, where denial of the others of this layer would cause you to cease to be. You would be no more. You would be an ex-human. So, without getting this layer in order, there's little point in looking higher in the scale. Looking for a life partner or a sense of achievement when there's no source of drinking water available and your days are therefore numbered is not a sensible approach. Something we often take for granted, and I'll be returning to later. Please check that section out if nothing else. But assuming these elements are in place as to ensure your physical survival, you can then move on to the next level, safety. If your safety is not assured and your life is in danger, then looking good and finding a date for the weekend is, again, not going to be a priority. So you see how this process works. You cannot reasonably move up the scale without sufficient stability below. That said, this is not as rigid as it may appear. As in music, where you learn scales, modes, chord structures and the like as a framework, it's only in breaking that structure that impactful music is made. The structure still exists, but if you stick to it rigidly, it would be too limiting. So you may need food, water and shelter at the base level, but improving your financial security at the next level up may be the key to resolving this shortfall, meaning you should not ignore development at the higher levels, though the priority remains the lower level. Similarly, love and intimacy does not appear until you reach the level of belongingness at tier 3. But what if, in finding love, you similarly find a greater level of financial or physical security? Now that could be taken in two ways. Don't think for a second I'm advocating the idea of using someone purely for their money, though it does demonstrate why this may feel like a priority to some. However, if while you're trying to shore up your safety level, you happen to be in a situation where love and intimacy presents themselves, it's also not a great idea to be completely dismissive of following that through because you haven't reached that point of security. In other words, shoring up something at a higher level can complement the filling of gaps at a lower level. With that concept in mind, let's layer in the Equilibritecture framework. Starting at the bottom, we have the elemental level. In essence, this is about de-stressing and clearing. In architectural terms, this would be preparing the site, clearing existing structures, checking the ground quality, leveling the site, etc. Here, we mirror three of the elements covered in Maslow's structure, but while this framework is a separate focus, it does assume a starting point above Maslow's base level, with basic physiology needs already met, and running in parallel to it. So here, water, sleep and fuel are not assessed in relation to survival. Rather, is there sufficient intake to allow for healthy living, creating groundwork that allows improvement to be built upon it? We can survive on very little, but lack of sleep energy from fuel, or function from water intake can actively hamper progress in many of the higher level elements. Therefore, the question at this level is whether these elements are consistently sufficient to ensure progress remains possible. The other two elements at this level are clarity and environment. Are you clear on the obstacles ahead of you? If you don't plan for them, you must react in the moment. And when we react, we're likely to default to ingrained habits that clearly haven't been working up till now. As for environment, if the spaces you regularly inhabit are filled with distractions, temptations, or obstacles that will make any positive changes more difficult, or detrimental habits easy to fall back into, then you're making things unnecessarily difficult for yourself. Just like you can technically build a house on uneven ground, it's an easier process when it's level. So if you can level the ground, why wouldn't you? Failure to deal with any of these elements creates stress, and stress, as will be clear if you've watched any of my previous content, is one of the biggest inhibitors of physiological progress there is. I've no intention of going through every level of this framework in detail here. This is more of a jumping off point to give you an overview to reflect on, but what makes this framework effective is you can take each element one step at a time, without losing sight of the fact that the exciting elements, the ones that inspire you the most, are still there, and you're still moving towards them. Whenever you check off something at a lower level, whilst it may feel dull, uninspiring, or irrelevant to the desire that fueled you to make a change, by effectively tackling it, you can see visually that you're moving one step closer to where you want to be. And don't worry, I will be going deeper into each element in future videos, so it would be a good idea to hit that subscribe button, though I'll give you a better reason shortly. But to quickly run through the other levels, next up is the foundational level. As in construction, this is possibly the most important level. It's not glamorous, it's not the part anyone gets excited about, but with poor foundations it becomes impossible to build anything of substance above. And the support imprinted at this level defines the longevity of everything else. Here we're ensuring your physiology is operating at least at its basic potential. Your inbuilt strength potential achieved, your mobility is unrestricted, you're connected to your body in such a way that you control it, rather than imbalances in strength or posture taking over. Your energy intake is in balance with what your desired output is. Too many people try to rev their engines with little to no fuel in the tank, then wonder why they feel drained, burned out, or unable to see the process through. But if I were to point to one core element in this layer as critical, it would be defining where it is you're headed. Have you taken the time to define your destination? Or are you simply looking to escape where you are now? Without clarity on where you're headed, how will you notice if you're veering off track? Time spent here is never wasted. To many it feels difficult and they'd rather just crack on with the workouts and the dieting, but skip this step at your peril. Structure, returning to the building process, is the framework. Now we're building something solid, impressive looking, something others will notice. At this level you would look to be your goal, inhabiting internally that which you defined on the previous level. And with that clearly defined destination, you can now create a roadmap to that point, being mindful of the obstacles and frustrations that are likely to spring up, having defined those in the first level. From a nutritional standpoint, we advance from energy to nutritional balance, ensuring there's sufficient nutritional quality to allow for optimal function, developing consistency of habits that ensure basic elements, such as those at the lower levels and anything else that has been charted on your roadmap, become habitual, rather than requiring willpower or energy to initiate them. And it's at this point that accountability and support become useful. This is a level most people jump straight to, hiring a PT, joining a gym, starting a diet or a fitness program they found online. But without the base elements, this is likely futile. And that lack of foundational support is almost certainly going to cause these efforts to crumble. Obviously, if the first two levels happen to be in place already, then this is the correct place to start. But if you're only guessing and haven't done your due diligence, how can you be sure? Once you pass the structural level, you hit the level most people are thinking of when they begin, the detailing level. Architecturally, this is the finishes that turn a basic functional structure into something that attracts attention. It's the beauty, the elegance, the finishes, often with little or no practical purpose other than to improve the aesthetics. In our framework, this manifests through a shift in priority. The desperation and wanting of the lower levels is gone, and by moving through those other levels, the importance of function over aesthetic becomes clear. Form follows function as an ideal may feel easy for you to say when you feel so far removed from the form you desire, but as it moves within your grasp, its importance is likely to diminish, though ironically, this happens at a point where it is more easily obtained. Confidence and self-image become more natural and can be worked on, not through panic or jealousy, but rather refinement and self-awareness. This is where an expansion of knowledge comes in. As you become more self-aware through the previous layers, developing a deeper understanding of that which truly benefits you becomes more appealing. As your energy will have increased, now it becomes the driver. Increased energy and passion for life come to the fore. That passion may still involve aesthetic development as you become more intimate with what your body is capable of. Self-awareness is very much key to this level. This will develop subconsciously through the first 3 tiers, but here you now have the capacity to take this to another level in ensuring you use your increased capabilities to become the best possible version of yourself. Beyond that comes impact. Whatever happens, as you solidify your changes and habits and move in a new direction, it will have an impact on those around you. However, it's likely once you've reached a point where the detailing level has been methodically explored, you'll want to share how you feel or make your life feel more impactful. The desire to spread joy, to motivate others through your actions or advice, and openness to continued learning and being wrong, something that is sorely lacking in most of us, becomes easier to inhabit. And where at the start of the journey, the goal was about receiving change, as your levels of self-confidence are now no longer a concern, giving becomes the more attractive form of expression. In addition, there are 3 elements that form a crucial part of the framework. They don't belong on any specific level, rather they're key to all levels. These being breathing, action, and gratitude. Breathing is something we tend to take for granted. As such, we put very little thought into it, and as a result, most of us do this poorly and with little control. And so, it is often the restricting force that holds us back at every level. Action is the element that takes us from a philosophy or a pipe dream to reality. This isn't a magic lamp. You can't just wish these things into existence. Having some form of action or momentum is key at all levels. And finally, success and failure are often little more than a matter of perspective. Being grateful for your successes, the things you do have, and what you're already achieving goes a long way to generating further success. As I've mentioned, I will explore each of these elements in more detail in future videos. For now though, I want to show my gratitude and give you a way to make a positive change here and now. As one of the key elements in this process is water, this is something I look to not just include as early in my daily routine as possible, but I make a point of practicing gratitude by reminding myself of how lucky I am to have drinking water on tap. There are many in this world who do not. And so, to show my appreciation for the support I've received on this channel, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. Going forward, for every new subscriber, I will donate 1 litre of clean drinking water to those who don't have that luxury. I've been looking into several charities to donate through, and as they all deal with separate parts of the world and have different models, I'm not going to stick with one for now, but as the numbers grow, this might change. But all you have to do is hit that subscribe button. 1 click, that's all it takes to donate 1 litre of water. If you want to do a little more though, share this video or the channel. Not only might others benefit from the content being shared, so tick 1 in your good deed book, but if they subscribe, that's another litre of water paid for. And the more you interact with the content through likes, shares and commenting, the further this thing will reach. Plus, I'm keen to interact with you, as the more of a community we can create here, the more of a positive change we can generate together. And if you feel you want to make a change, but having seen the framework I've proposed, you're thinking, I don't have time for all of that, then you should watch this video next and see how it is possible to build momentum and make improvements, which in turn help you gain more time as part of an already busy schedule.